It is time for Inside the Game. Oh, yes, indeed. Steve Clark is joining us now, and I don't know, Steve, if you're on vacation or not, but glad you are with us this morning. How you doing?
Good morning, Ron. Good morning, Dave. How is everybody doing?
I'm doing great. I have to tell you this. I'm shocked and I'm a little disappointed. I thought for sure James Madison would be in it. But the fact that James Madison and Tulsa are both out of it, are you kidding me? I mean, just upset city.
Yeah, well, Tulsa's definitely out of it. Tulane had a rematch
Tulane,
with
I'm sorry.
Ole Miss in a game that Ole Miss won by 35 points,
It's
and it was pretty much the
ridiculous.
same way. I
Ridiculous.
guess you could say Tulane did a little bit better, only losing by 31. This was a game I had no interest in whatsoever.
Mm,
I had no interest in watching Oregon throttle JMU. You
no.
look at the score 51 to 34. No, no, no. This was JMU scoring a ton of points in the fourth quarter to
Right.
make this game a little closer. I think Oregon was up 34 to 3, which again brings in this whole argument about why are these two teams even in it to begin with? Because one of the things that the media demanded and the fan bases demanded was inclusivity. They
Right.
wanted everybody who could possibly have an argument to be invited. And this is the kind of the result of what happened. So will they continue to tinker with the product? Probably. They could expand to 16 teams. They could keep it at 12, but maybe only reduce it to one group of six and figure these things out. You certainly didn't want the ACC champion Duke in it because they were
No.
like 8-5. So they got to figure these things out because Notre Dame, I think, could have won this weekend
Yeah.
had they played, but we will never, ever know.
Yeah,
I was
that's
going to
right.
say all the Notre Dame fans are screaming at their radios right now, but here's the thing. Yes, that's behind us, but what's in front of us, Steve, looks like a nice set of games going into New Year's Eve and New Year's Day.
Well, Dave, I'm sure you would like me to talk about your Ohio State Buckeyes, who are
Cotton Bowl,
going to have
Cotton Bowl.
a four about a 4 week layoff before they play the Miami Hurricanes, who got
Yeah.
a road win 10-3 over A&M at
Right.
Kyle Field. And some
Hmm.
people thought it was a boring game. I thought it was an exhilarating game
Great
that had
defense.
playmakers on both sides of the ball doing their thing. The wind was an issue, the crowd was an issue. But in the end, it was the Miami Hurricanes and their defense.
Hmm.
Quite frankly, they've been playing in a very poor conference. Their only real test, of course, was Notre Dame in terms of out of conference play. It was good to see Miami and Texas A&M match up and to see who would win that game. And I was surprised. I thought A&M would win it, but now Miami and that defense is going to go up and be the biggest test probably for Julian Sayin and his quarterback career at Ohio State.
Well, and that was my question too. Looking at Miami's defense and IU's defense, you would say that Miami's defense was even tougher than Indiana's defense. Obviously, you saw them both play
Well,
recently.
no, I don't want to go that far. I'm just saying that this is probably the toughest defense that Julian Sayin has faced up to this point.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
I
true.
haven't broken it down yet analytically and eye test wise to see who is actually the better defense of the two. But one of the things I like about Indiana is they've got all Big Ten players and all American type candidates at each defensive level
Yeah.
position group, meaning the guys on the defensive line, all American, linebacker, Aiden Fisher,
Yeah.
D back, D'Angelo Ponds. So they've got all Americans at three different levels. And that's not to say Miami doesn't. Miami's a very talented defensive group too. So I think Ohio State's in a good position. They've been there before, Dave, as you know.
Yeah.
I don't think
Recently.
their offense is as potent as it was last year or as
Mm.
experienced, but I do like where, Ohio State's running game has was a big question mark going into this season, and it's
Yeah.
no longer as big.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think is an Ohio State favorite, I think, by like 8.5 points or something like that. So they at least have a mental edge going in.
Just a little bit. You could also say that's a motivating factor for Miami. That
Mm-hmm.
anytime the team is an underdog, they make it bulletin board material and try to fuel themselves to pull off the upset because nothing feels better than sports than winning a game nobody thinks you're going to win. That's where people get a ton of satisfaction from.
There's the
Yeah,
thrill of victory, yeah.
Yeah, I always prefer when Ohio State are the underdogs. Real quickly, how about the other games? We've got Texas Tech, Oregon. We've got Indiana going against Alabama, and then of course Georgia and Ole Miss as well.
Yeah, they're going to be fantastic games coming up in a couple of weeks. We won't be able to talk about them until afterwards.
Right.
Um, Georgia Ole Miss will be a replay of an 8-point game that took place earlier this year in which Georgia won. It was Ole Miss's only loss. Here's a pretty funny twist on things. Lane Kiffin was supposed to get performance bonuses
Yeah.
from Ole Miss for every level of playoff game they won. He's still getting paid his bonus,
Oh
but by
yeah.
LSU. LSU is picking up the tab for Ole
Is
Miss.
that right?
So
I
it's
didn't
Wow.
know
weird that
that.
it's weird that these two schools are rivals. Now imagine, say, Michigan would pick up an Ohio State
Oh
coach,
yeah.
and Michigan would be rooting for Ohio State to do well, so the bonuses could kick in. It's weird.
Right,
It's just
right.
extremely weird.
That
But
is.
but that's life in the SEC. I guess it means more, and it has to mean more for these things to happen.
Oh yeah.
And Oregon, Texas Tech. I mean, Texas Tech and Oregon both have an extreme level of talent on both sides of the ball. I really like Dante Moore as a quarterback. He could be the first quarterback taken in the NFL draft, even if he decides to forgo the rest of his eligibility. I watched Texas Tech play smothering defense against BYU a few weeks ago over on their home field. I can't wait for that matchup.
That's going to be fun to watch. It really will.
So Steve,
I
knowing
got
that.
I got some news about Michigan State, if you don't
Ooh.
mind for a
Yeah,
minute. Pat
please.
Fitzgerald, their head coach, was told he was going to get some money to spend on some coaches, and Boyd, he must have found a way to do it because they got two veterans from, good schools. Michigan State hiring Nick Sheridan, a former walk-on quarterback
Yeah.
from U of M, as their new offensive coordinator. Now, Michigan's been having trouble finding a head football coach, and they can't get Kalen DeBoer until after their season is over. Well, Michigan State got their offensive coordinator during the season. So explain that one to me. And the second one that's really interesting is they got Iowa's special teams coordinator. And if you know anything about Iowa Hawkeye football in the last decade, they only score on defense and special teams. And this guy was supposed to be their interim coach.
Oh, amazing. Thanks, Steve.